From now onwards, we're going to dive into the practical portion of the course, and you're going to learn everything through real-life examples. Please note that this course has been kept constantly up to date. With every update, we test everything that is covered in this course against the latest systems at 3 different locations with 3 different setups. You can actually check when the course was last updated by looking at the overview in here and scrolling down to the description portion. Look at the last updated and you'll see here when was the course last updated. Also, with every update, I usually send an announcement that details what exactly have been updated. You can view this announcement in your email or in the announcements tab in here. So as you can see, the last announcement was sent 9 days ago. I pushed another course update. It details which course this was pushed to, the amount of lectures that were updated, the reason, and also the exact lecture numbers and lecture titles that were updated. And if I scroll down, you can see all the previous updates. So I have an update here a month ago, again, another update, scroll down, another update a month ago, and so on. So you can see a quick changelog of how the course has evolved in here. So if anything didn't work for you, it is probably because you are missing something or because you're not doing something properly. So just ask us in the Q&A in here and we'll respond to you within less than 15 hours. You can also check out the featured questions just in case your question falls under this, as you will already have an answer ready before you even ask the question. Keep in mind, guys, that we are trying to hack into systems designed by very smart people. We're also using different operating systems and different setups, so it is normal to face issues, and it's actually part of the learning experience to be able to diagnose these issues and fix them. And like I said, we are here to help. If you face any questions, just don't be afraid to ask us, and we will try our best to help you. As I mentioned, this course is going to be highly practical. Therefore, you will need a lab, a place where you can practice and experiment with the things that you're going to learn in the course. Not only that, but having a lab is essential for hackers or pen testers, because let's say you discovered a new attack or you want to experiment with a new attack, or you learned something new online and you want to test it, then the perfect place for you to test this and practice hacking is a hacking or a testing lab. Now, to create a lab, you just need a number of computers with different operating systems, and you'll need a number of networks if you're testing network attacks, and if you're testing website attacks, then you will need to install websites on these computers. Or you can do all of this inside your computer, inside one machine, and install everything else as virtual machines. And this is what we're going to do. So let's say you have your computer right here. This is your main computer that you use every day to check your emails or even to watch this course. This computer might be running Windows, OS X or Linux. It doesn't really matter. It can run any operating system. You can keep all the programs that you love and like and install a virtualization software such as VirtualBox or VMware. A virtualization software allows us to create a number of virtual computers inside your main computer. So we can have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 computers all installed inside your main operating system, inside your main computer. The really cool thing about this is you will not need a number of computers. You can do everything inside a single computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a hacking machine. This is going to be the machine that we will use in order to hack into other machines. We're going to install Kali Linux on it, and we'll talk about what that is later on. And we're going to have 2 target machines. These are machines that we're going to try to hack into and practice hacking against. One of them is going to be running Windows, and the other one is going to be running an operating system called Metasploitable, and we will talk about that once we get to it. Now, it is very important to understand that you will not lose any functionality when you install an operating system as a virtual machine. You can use that machine exactly as if it's a real physical machine. So the really cool thing about using virtual machines, first of all, you're not going to lose any functionality. Second, all the machines are going to be isolated. So as we go through the course, we're going to be trying to hack into these machines, and we might actually break one of them. But that's fine. It will not affect your host machine. You will be able to easily fix this and go back to a snapshot of when the machine was working without affecting your main computer. The other cool thing is that you'll be able to have a number of different versions of each of these machines, and you'll be able to change the configuration easily, change the network settings, or switch between different states of these machines, and so on. So, by using virtualization, you will not lose any functionality, but you will gain so many cool features. And the main thing to keep in mind is your host machine, your main computer, will never be affected. It's completely isolated. And if we break any of these machines, nothing will happen to your precious computer that you use every day. And this way, you can always use your host machine for daily use, for checking emails, watching the videos, doing whatever you do normally, and then use your virtual machines for hacking and practicing the attacks. And this is what we're going to be doing in this course. So right here, I have a Windows computer that does not contain any hacking tools, so I can't really use it for hacking. But I have a virtualization software called VMware installed on it, and this software allows me to run multiple operating systems as virtual machines within this host computer. So I can use the host computer for my daily use and then use the virtual machines for whatever use I want, for testing or for hacking. So if I zoom in here on the left, you can see that I have Kali Linux installed. This is an operating system that we will use for hacking. You can see I have another Windows computer. You can see that I have Linux, all of it installed as virtual machines. And then we're going to be using these as we go through the course for hacking or for testing without affecting our main host operating system, this Windows computer. Now, don't worry about any of this. In the next lectures, I will show you in details how to install this virtualization software, VMware, on all of the major operating systems, on Windows, Linux, or Apple Mac OS. As we go through the course, I will also show you in details how to install these operating systems as virtual machines within VMware. The first operating system that we're going to install in our lab is Kali Linux. See, throughout the course, we're going to use a number of hacking tools. You can install each of these tools manually, or you can do what most hackers do, including myself, and save time and effort and use an operating system designed for hacking. We're going to use an operating system called Kali Linux. It's a Linux distro based on Debian, and the only difference between Kali and the actual original Debian Linux distro is the fact that Kali has a lot of hacking and penetration testing tools pre-installed and pre-configured in it. Therefore, once you install Kali, you will have access to so many hacking tools without the need to install or configure any of them, which will save you a lot of time and a lot of effort. Now, just like any other operating system, you can install it as a main machine or as a virtual machine. Now, I'm going to install it as a virtual machine because, like I explained in the previous lecture, we will not lose any functionality by using operating systems as virtual machines, and it comes with a lot of benefits because it's completely isolated from our computer that we always use. So if we break the virtual machine or if we want to delete it and reset it, it will not affect our main operating system. Now, the first thing that you want to do is download the virtual image of Kali Linux. So you can download it from the resources of this lecture. To access the resources of the current lecture, we're going to scroll down to the lecture. We're going to click on the resources icon, and then we're going to click on the resource that we want. Now, before going ahead with this, I want to highlight something that is very important. So please pay attention. This is a custom Kali image that I made for my courses. It is smoother and faster than the original one. It fixes a number of bugs, and it contains a number of extra programs that we need for this course and are not included in the original release. You do not have to use this custom image. You can use the original one. You can even use just a normal Linux distribution, as long as you know how to manually install all of the missing programs and apply the fixes that I did myself. And you can see a full list of them here on the left. Therefore, if you ask us a question in the Q&A section and you're not using the custom image, the first thing that we will ask you is to use the custom Kali image that we made for you, because we will not know the changes you made in order to fix it. So, if you have a 64-bit computer, download it from one of these links. Or if you have a 32-bit computer, then download the 32-bit version from here. For Apple users, if you have an Apple computer, then you should download the 64-bit version. If you have an older Apple computer that uses a 64-bit processor, or if you have a newer Apple computer with a silicon ARM chip, like the M1, M2, M3, and so on, then make sure you download the version that is made specifically for your computer from here. While waiting on the download, check out our VIP community right here and our YouTube channel. We actually post hacking content on it regularly, so you'll probably find this very useful. So make sure you subscribe to stay updated with the latest stuff that we post in here. Once the download is complete, you'll be ready to install Kali as a virtual machine. I will walk you through that in the next lectures, but before moving on, we need to enable virtualization to run virtual machines. You only need to do that if you're running Windows or Linux. You do not need to do this if you're running Apple Mac OS, as Apple computers come with virtualization enabled by default. So skip the rest of this lecture if you're using an Apple computer. If you're using Windows or Linux, then continue with me to see how to enable it. So on Windows, before enabling it, if you want to check if it is already enabled, you're going to have to go to the Start menu. We're going to look for the Task Manager. I have it right here. I'm going to click on More Details. I'm going to go on Performance. And if you look in here, beside virtualization, if it's saying enabled for you, then you can skip the rest of this lecture and move on to the next lecture. If it's saying disabled, then continue with this lecture to learn how to enable virtualization. So to do that, we're going to have to first restart the computer, and as it's booting, as it's starting, you're going to have to press a key combination, usually one of the F keys from your keyboard, to enter the BIOS settings, and from there we can enable it. So let me show you how to do it. Keep in mind, you only need to do this if virtualization is disabled. If it's enabled, then you can simply skip this and continue with the rest of the course. Entering the BIOS settings varies depending on the computer that you have and depending on the motherboard. On the right here, I have a table of the most common computers, along with the buttons that you need to press in order to enter the BIOS settings. So as soon as you turn on the computer or restart it, you'll need to press the button relevant to your computer in here in order to enter the BIOS settings. Once you're there, you want to make sure you enable virtualization. So let me show you how to do this on a real computer. This is a Lenovo computer. Therefore, based on the table that I just showed you, I will need to press F2 as soon as I turn on this computer in order to enter into its BIOS settings. So first I'm gonna hit the power button to turn it on, and as it's being turned on, I'm gonna keep pressing F2 to enter the settings. And perfect, as you can see, I am in the BIOS settings right now. Now keep in mind, depending on your computer, the settings might look different than what I have in here. The main thing you need to keep in mind is to enable virtualization. This option can be found in a different window in any of these windows or tabs, but the main thing you want to keep in mind is to look for an option called virtualization, VTX, AMDV, or any of the options in here and enable it. So as you can see, for me, the first window that I see is just an information window. It doesn't really allow me to modify anything. Now you can use the keyboard to navigate between these windows or these tabs. So I'm gonna press the right arrow to go to the configuration window. And in here, the only thing that I wanna modify is Intel virtualization technology. So I'm gonna use the down arrow to navigate to that. And I'm gonna hit enter to change the setting, press down to set it to enabled, and hit enter again to select it. Now, if you're not sure about how to use this interface, because like I said, you might actually get a different interface, keep an eye on the instructions that you see at the bottom as they tell you exactly how to navigate and modify the settings. Now, I'm done with the configuration window. I'm gonna press the right arrow again to go into the security tab. We're gonna go to the exit. So again, I'm gonna press the right arrow again, and I'm gonna select the first option, exit saving settings. It's going to ask me, do I really want to do this? I'm going to say yes. The computer will restart with virtualization enabled. So in the next lectures, when we get to installing virtual machines, these virtual machines will run with no issues. If you've done everything properly, now if you go again to the task manager, go to performance, you should see that virtualization is enabled. If you couldn't do that, please ask us in the Q&A section and we'll be happy to help you. Keep in mind that you only need to do this if you're running Windows or Linux as the host computer on your main computer. If you're running Apple, Mac OS, then you do not need to do this and you should have skipped this part. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to install Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside Windows. Skip this lecture if you're running Apple, Mac OS or Linux, as I will cover that in the next lectures. Now, I already have it downloaded in here. This is an archive that contains the actual virtual image of Kali. We did that to compress its size so that it doesn't take a long time to download. So now that we have it downloaded, we're going to need to install a program that can uncompress 7-zip archives and show us the contents. To do that, we're going to go to Chrome and you want to go to 7-zip.org. I will include that in the resources of this lecture. And you want to download the version that is compatible with your operating system. I have a 64-bit operating system, so I'm downloading the 64-bit. And once the download is complete, we can simply click on it to install it, give it permissions, and click on install. Once the install is complete, we're going to click on close. And we're going to go back on our downloads directory. And right now, because we installed 7-zip, this program, we're going to be able to uncompress this archive and see the virtual image inside it. So I'm going to right click. And as you can see, I have an entry called 7-zip now. And if I hover over it and click on extract here, it will uncompress that image and reveal its contents. As you can see now, we have a new directory and you can see the extension now is .vmware VM. So as mentioned in the previous lecture, VMware is the software that we're going to use to run different operating systems as virtual machines. And this file right here is designed to run inside VMware as a virtual machine. So in order to run it, we're going to have to go ahead and install VMware. Now you can download VMware from the same page where you downloaded the custom Kali. I'm going to include its link in the resources of this lecture as well. I already have it opened in here and we're just going to scroll down past the Kali download links. You'll see we have a new section here that has the VMware player download links for all operating systems. Make sure you download the correct one for your operating system. We're covering installing Kali on Windows in this lecture. That's why we're going to download the Windows one. And installing Kali for other operating systems is covered in the next lectures as mentioned. So we're going to click on this link in here to download it. And we're going to click on download in here again. And that's going to start the download process for us. Once the download is complete, you can simply view it in your downloads or click it here to run it. Give it permissions. And similar to installing any software on Windows, you really don't need to do much. We're simply just gonna click on next, 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 accept the agreement, next, 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 and let it install. The installation is complete. We're gonna click on finish. And now we should be able to run this virtual machine file that we downloaded, the .vmware VM file, using VMware Workstation Player. So we're going to double click it to start it, and I'm going to minimize this. We're going to click on Open Virtual Machine in here, or you can go on the Player, File, and Open. We're going to navigate to the location where we downloaded the virtual image of Kali in my downloads. And as you can see, we have it in here. Keep in mind, it's the .vmware VM file. So it ends with .vmware VM. We're going to click on it. We're going to click on open. And inside it, we have another file. The only one file that we can select. We're going to select it and click on open. If you get no errors, as you can see in here in my case, that's it. The machine is now installed and ready to be used. Now, before running it, I'm going to click on Edit Virtual Machine Settings, or right click and Settings, just to give you an idea of what the settings look like so you feel more comfortable with VMware. Because modifying virtual machine settings is always the same regardless of what type of virtual machine it is. So as you can see in this window, first of all, we can modify the amount of memory that the virtual machine has. And this machine is set to 2 GB of memory by default. That is enough, but you can increase it up or down using this slider. You can also modify the amount of processors that the machine has. So as you can see, this one has 2 processors assigned to it. That is plenty. It's enough, as you'll see, but you can give it more if you want to give it more. Another really important option is the network adapter. And as you can see, this is set to NAT. And this setting will basically create a virtual network where my host machine is going to be the router for this network. And then all the virtual machines are going to be clients connected to this network. So they're going to get internet connection from my host machine. And at the same time, all of my virtual machines will be connected to the same virtual network. This is very handy because my virtual machines will be able to communicate with each other, and therefore will be able to use the Kali machine to hack into the others, will be able to test network attacks, and do much more. So this setting will first allow my virtual machines to have internet connection, and it will also allow them to communicate with each other through this virtual NAT network. Now, this virtual network will rely on the connection of your host computer. So it will not need any extra interfaces. It will not need any extra adapters. And as far as the virtual machines are concerned, they are connected to an Ethernet network, but in reality, they are connected through the host machine. You can also modify the display settings in here if you have a bigger screen or a smaller screen. And I usually like to tick this box in here, the Accelerate 3D Graphics. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to click on OK. And like I said, you actually don't need to modify any of these settings. I just wanted to show you what kind of settings we can set for these virtual machines. But once you're ready to run the virtual machine, we're just going to click on the green play button to start it. Now I'm going to click on Inside and click Enter to start Kali. And I know it's starting very small. This is because I have a high resolution screen. It's probably going to start in the normal size for you. I'm just going to zoom in for you. And perfect. We have the login screen here for Kali. So the username is ROOT and the password is TOOR, the reverse. We're going to hit enter. And perfect, as you can see now we are running this Linux operating system as a virtual machine inside my Windows operating system in here. And we're going to use this Linux operating system for hacking as we go through the course. Now before we wrap it up, I want to go into full screen. So we're going to click on the player and we're going to click on full screen. And as you can see, this will automatically go in full screen. So again, I'm still using Kali within my host operating system, which is Windows. And in most cases, Kali will look normal. But as you can see, in my case, the icons are very small and the text here on the top is very small. And that's because I have a 4K display. So we're going to need to manually modify the display settings. And to do that, we're going to right click, go to settings, and we're gonna set the scale to 200. I'm gonna click on apply. We're gonna keep the changes and perfect. Now Kali looks normal for me. You don't have to do this if Kali looked normal from the start. Only if you have a high resolution screen, you might have to do this. Now I know this operating system looks a little bit confusing and scary, but don't worry about it at all. I will teach you how to use it step by step as we go through the course. If you face any issues while installing Kali, check out the featured questions first, and if you don't see your answer, feel free to ask us in the Q&A or in the forums, and we will respond to you within a maximum of 15 hours. And to turn off Kali, you can simply click here, go to power off and power off. Click on power off one more time and the machine will shut down. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to install Kali Linux as a virtual machine on Apple Mac OS. Skip this lecture if you already have Kali and VMware installed, or if you want to install it on Linux. I will cover installing it on Linux in the next lecture. The installation steps that I'm going to show you will work on all Apple computers, whether they use the older 64-bit processors or the new silicon chips, the M1, M2, M3, and so on. Just make sure you download the correct version from the download page. If you have an older 64-bit Apple computer, then download the 64-bit version. If you have one of the newer Apple Silicon computers, then make sure you download the version that is made for the Apple Silicon computers. I already have the correct version downloaded for my computer in my downloads in here, but as you can see, it is compressed inside a 7-zip archive. We did this to reduce the size of the image so you can download it faster. So in order to use it, we have to decompress it first. And to do that, you can simply double-click the archive. As you can see now, the archive is getting decompressed. You want to give it some time. This might take a minute or so. Once done, you're going to get a new file, as you can see, and this new file has a .vmware VM extension. So this is the actual virtual image file that will allow us to run Kali Linux as a virtual machine. To do this, to run Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside our current operating system, we're going to have to install a virtualization software. And the one that we're going to use is called VMware. You can download VMware from the same page where you downloaded the custom Kali Linux. I'm going to include its link in the resources of this lecture as well. And we're simply going to scroll down past the Kali download links. You'll see a section here that allows you to download VMware for all operating systems. Now, since we're installing Kali on an Apple computer, make sure you download the version that is made for Apple computers. So we're going to click on this link. And we're going to click on download one more time. If you get a message like this one saying unverified download blocked, click download file anyway. You're only getting this because you're downloading the file from here, but you can validate the integrity of the file using the signature in here. Once the download is complete, you're going to see VMware downloaded in your downloads directory in Finder. And to install it, we're simply going to double click it. And installing it is identical to installing any program on Apple Mac OS. So we're simply going to double click it, click open, enter the password, agree to the terms, This program is free to use for personal use, which is what we're doing here. So you can simply use the product key that I'm using myself here in this video. I'm also going to include it in the resources of this lecture, and we're going to click on continue and done. Now you might be asked for permissions to offer extra features, so we're going to allow it. You can allow this by clicking on the system preferences here. Click on the lock icon to edit the preferences, put the password, and tick the box next to VMware. Once done, we're going to close the preferences, and as you can see, we have VMware's welcome screen right here, which will allow you to create or import a new virtual machine. I'm actually going to close this because I want to show you how to launch the program from scratch and then how to import and add virtual machines to it. So to do that, simply we're going to go to all applications, and you can look for VMware in the search bar, or simply just scroll through until you find it. One click will start the program, and you'll see that we're back to the same welcome screen that allows us to create or import new virtual machines. But we actually want to use a ready virtual machine that I've already created for you. So all you have to do is simply go back to the downloads where you downloaded the custom Kali in Finder. And this is the image that I downloaded and showed you at the start of the lecture. The whole process that I showed you so far should work on all Apple computers. You just want to make sure that you download the correct version for your computer. If you have a silicon-based ARM processor, then make sure you download the ARM version. If you have an older 64-bit processor, then make sure you download the 64-bit version. So I have the correct version downloaded in here, and I'm simply going to double-click it to run it in VMware. Now, because this is the first time I run this machine, it's given me an option to upgrade it. You might not always get this depending on your settings, but if you get it, click on upgrade. This will give you more features and more freedom with using the virtual machine. And we're going to say OK for this warning message, and we're going to say that we copied it. And perfect, now this virtual machine is actually booting inside my own operating system. So now it's asking us to log in. The default username is root, R-O-O-T. And the default password is Toor, T-O-O-R. I'm going to hit enter to log in. And perfect, now I'm logged in and I'm running Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside my main operating system, which is this Mac OS computer. To go in full screen, you can simply click the green button in here, and the resolution will automatically change. I know this might look a little bit scary, but don't worry about it. I will walk you through it step by step as we go through the course, and you'll see how easy it is to use it for hacking. For now, to exit the full screen, you can simply go to the top, keep the mouse there, and click the green button again. And to turn this machine off, you can simply click the turn off button in here, click the power button again, and click power off. Click power off one more time, and now the machine is off. Now in here on the top right, you can see we have a VMware icon, and if you click it, you'll see a list of all of the virtual machines installed inside your current operating system. As you can see, I only have one because we already installed one so far. If you click the virtual machine library in here, again, it will show you a nice window with a list of all the installed virtual machines. And if you want to edit the settings of any of these machines, you can simply right click it and click on settings. This machine is already configured to run well, but you can modify this if you have more resources to get it to run even faster. So I just want to show you how to modify the settings because the process is the same for any virtual machine that you might install even in the future. Usually the main settings that affect performance are the processors and memory. So here you can adjust the amount of memory that this virtual machine can use by moving the slider. And you can change the number of processors that this machine can use using this drop-down menu. By default, this is set to 2 processors and 2 GB of memory. This is enough to run the machine decently, but if you have more resources, then feel free to increase this to get the virtual machine to run even faster. Now let's go back, and I also want to show you the network settings for this specific virtual machine. And as you can see, by default, this is set to share with my Mac, and this basically sets up a virtual network where my host machine is going to be the router for this network, and then all the virtual machines are going to be clients connected to this network. So they're going to get internet connection from my host machine. And at the same time, all of my virtual machines will be connected to the same virtual network. This is very handy because my virtual machines will be able to communicate with each other, and therefore will be able to use the Kali machine to hack into the others, will be able to test network attacks, and do much more. So this setting will first allow my virtual machines to have internet connection, and it will also allow them to communicate with each other through this virtual NAT network. Now this virtual network will rely on the connection of your host computer. So it will not need any extra interfaces, it will not need any extra adapters, and as far as the virtual machines are concerned, they are connected to an Ethernet network, but in reality, they are connected through the host machine. Again, click on Show All to go back to all of the other settings. But like I said, you don't need to modify anything. Everything should be configured and set properly for you to run with no issues at all. If you face any issues, then check out the featured questions and feel free to ask us. We will respond to you within less than 15 hours. And like I said, don't worry about how to use Kali. I will cover that in details step by step as we go through the course. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to install Kali Linux as a virtual machine inside Linux. Skip this lecture if you have it already installed and revise the previous lectures to see how to install it on Windows or Apple Mac OS. Now I already have it downloaded in here in my downloads, and as you can see, this is an archive with a 7Z extension. The actual virtual image is compressed inside this archive. We did this to reduce its size so you can download it quicker, but in order to use this virtual image, we're going to have to uncompress the archive. To do that, you simply have to right-click it and click on Extract here. You're going to need to give it some time to fully uncompress the archive and reveal its content. Once this is done, you're going to see a new directory in here that contains the actual image, and you'll notice that this folder ends with .vmware vm. So in order to run this virtual image of Kali Linux, we need to install a virtualization software, and the software that we're going to use is called VMware. Now you can download VMware from the same page where you downloaded the custom Kali. I'm going to include its link in the resources of this lecture as well. And we're just going to scroll down past the Kali download links. You'll see we have a new section here that has the VMware player download links for all operating systems. And since we're installing Kali on a Linux computer in this lecture, we're going to download the Linux version in here by clicking on this link. Click on download one more time and give it some time to download. Once the download is complete, we're going to be able to see it here in our downloads. This is the installer for VMware, the software that we're going to use to run virtual machines inside our current operating system. And to install it, we're first going to need to open our terminal and navigate to the location where we have this installer downloaded, which is in my downloads. So I'm going to use the cd command to change my working directory to downloads. And if I do ls to list all of the files, you'll see we have the file in here. And before running this file, we need to change its permissions to an executable. So to do that, we're going to do chmod +x followed by the file name. I'm going to hit enter. And now if I do ls, you'll notice that the file name is listed in green, meaning that this is an executable. Now, before running this executable, we're going to have to install the Build Essentials package, because it is required by this installer to install VMware for us. Now I'm doing all of these steps on Ubuntu, but installing VMware should be pretty much the same on most Linux and especially Debian-based distributions. So in order to install the Build Essentials, I'm first going to have to update the list of sources that I can download packages from. And to do that, we're going to do sudo apt-get update. I'm going to input my password. Once the sources are updated, we're ready to install the Build Essentials. So we're going to do sudo apt-get install build essential gcc-12. We're going to hit enter. I've already installed this, that's why it's automatically installing it for me, but in your case it's going to ask you to confirm, and all you'll have to do is simply hit enter to confirm that you want to install it. If you don't see any errors at all, it means everything got installed properly. So I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to do ls one more time just to show you what we want to run. We want to run this executable, which is the same file as this one. And to run executables in Linux, you simply have to do // followed by the executable name. Now also we need to run this as admin, therefore I'm going to type sudo before the command. I'm going to hit enter. And we're going to give it some time to extract the installer. And once it's done, we're going to go to all of our software and we're going to run VMware Player. We're going to accept the agreement and click next, accept the license, next. We're going to say we don't want to share data and we click on finish. We're going to put the password. And perfect, here we go. During the installation, you might also get an option to either use the free or the paid version. Make sure you select the free one because we're using it for non-commercial use. So right now, we're ready to create or open ready virtual machines using VMware. And the virtual machine that we actually want to run is the customized version of Kali that we just downloaded at the start of the video. So to do that, we're simply going to click on open a virtual machine or go to file and open virtual machine. We're going to navigate to the location where we downloaded this virtual machine. So we're going to go to downloads. We're going to double click it in here and select the only file that we can select, which is the .vmx file. We're going to double click it. And here we go. We have it imported in here in VMware and we can easily start it now by clicking on power on in here. Now, before doing that, I just want to show you how to modify the virtual machine settings. You do not need to do this. I'm simply showing you how to do that so you get an idea on how to modify the settings, because modifying virtual machine settings is always the same regardless of what type of virtual machine it is. So we're going to click on edit virtual machine settings in here to modify the settings. And as you can see, the first thing that you can modify is the amount of memory that the virtual machine has. And you can increase it or decrease it by moving the slider. It's set to 2 GB by default, and that is good. So I'm going to keep it at that. Next, you can modify the number of processors that the machine has. Again, it's set to 2 by default. I'm going to keep it at that because that's pretty good. You can also modify the network settings. And as you can see right now, it's set to use a NAT network. We're also going to keep this as NAT. This is great because this setting will basically create a virtual network where my host machine is going to be the router for this network. And then all the virtual machines are going to be clients connected to this network. So they're going to get internet connection from my host machine. And at the same time, all of my virtual machines will be connected to the same virtual network. This is very handy because my virtual machines will be able to communicate with each other, and therefore will be able to use the Kali machine to hack into the others, will be able to test network attacks, and do much more. So this setting will first allow my virtual machines to have internet connection, and it will also allow them to communicate with each other through this virtual NAT network. Now, this virtual network will rely on the connection of your host computer. So it will not need any extra interfaces. It will not need any extra adapters. And as far as the virtual machines are concerned, they are connected to an Ethernet network, but in reality, they are connected through the host machine. Finally, you can also modify the display settings in here, and I usually like to tick this option to accelerate 3D graphics. If you get issues with it, you can untick it, but usually it gives you nicer and smoother animations with virtual machines. So we're going to save the settings, and we can go ahead and start this virtual machine by selecting it and clicking on power on in here. we're going to say I copied it, and we're just going to give it some time to load. And as you can see, if everything goes as expected, you should get the default login screen for Kali. So I'm going to click in here and I'm going to put the username as root, R-O-O-T, hit enter, and the password is the reverse of that, so it's T-O-O-R. We're going to hit enter and give it some time. And great, as you can see, now we have another operating system, Kali Linux, installed as a virtual machine inside our own main host operating system. Now we can put this in full screen by going to virtual machine in here and clicking on enter full screen. The screen should automatically resize, as you can see in here, and in most cases the icons should look normal, but in my case they look small because I have a 4K display. So we're gonna need to manually modify the display settings, and to do that we're gonna right click, go to settings, and we're gonna set the scale to 200. I'm gonna click on apply. We're gonna keep the changes, and perfect. Now Kali looks normal for me. You don't have to do this if Kali looked normal from the start. Only if you have a high resolution screen, you might have to do this. Now I know this operating system might look a little bit confusing and scary, but don't worry about it at all. I will teach you how to use it step by step as we go through the course. If you face any issues while installing Kali, check out the featured questions first, and if you don't see your answer, feel free to ask us in the Q&A or in the forums, and we will respond to you within a maximum of 15 hours. And to turn off Kali, you can simply click here, go to power off and power off. Click on power off one more time and the machine will shut down.